and I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. Welcome everybody. We're going to be going over the SentriLock, which is the transition from card to app. We have Andrew here, who's one of our pros in SentriKeys and SentriLock. So he's going to go ahead and tell you what are some of the changes that are happening and how to deal with those changes when you are dealing with the SentriLock. So I'm going to mute myself, have a great presentation, and everything should be fine.
Very good. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Andrew Bockelman, and I am a customer success manager here at SentriLock. So I do a lot for our company. I work with the local associations, boards, MLSs for all of our accounts, or many of our accounts. All the San Diego region, that's the groups that I manage. And so your SDAR staff team enlisted me to do a presentation for your group, more so just designed to focus around the app and how we're going to work with these new lock boxes and what this transition looks like and means for you all. So the decision for SentriLock, just to get started with a little background, to move from having the cards to no cards was a decision that wasn't easy to make for us. What we saw was the companies that we are vendors for, these cards, SentriCards that you know and love, that technology, the chip technology and everything else built into that, it was starting to kind of phase out for them. So that means, things are not as supported. They're moving away from that sort of chip technology all to all the new stuff. And so that would mean any new cards they produce wouldn't work on our lock boxes, and they really stopped producing the SentriCard. So we had to make some steps to move forward. So over the last years, we've gotten our app kind of ready for use of the app on any generation of lockbox we have. So your older generation lockboxes, the card going away does not make them obsolete. It does still allow you to use them. And you can, kind of phase in the upgraded new technology of the lock boxes, the Bluetooth lock boxes and things like that on your time scale. So you don't have to kind of go and do that all right away today. So what we're going to show you today is focused around the app, using the lock boxes in the app. So you have multiple generations of lock boxes. Not sure how well it'll show up on the screen here, but we have the Bluetooth lockbox that you'll have and see. It looks like this. I don't know how the best way to get that in the picture, but it's the off-white color. And maybe I'll clear out my background here so that it's not blurry, so I can share things a little bit better. There we go. So you have the Bluetooth lockbox. It's an off-white shade of color. And then when you press enter on the Bluetooth lockbox, what you'll notice is a blue light flash, and then I'll kind of point your attention to that a little bit later. We also have the NXT, what is the version we call it, but it's these lock boxes that are dark colored like this. They look like the Bluetooth lock boxes, but they have a blue cover on them. Some people describe that as a black. It's just a very dark blue color. And so those are the non-Bluetooth lock boxes. So we're going to show you how to use both. You may also have our first generation products still circulating in the inventory, maybe not as many as those around, but those are kind of big, clunkier boxes. I say clunky, but they're big boxes that are silver, and they have a little key flap at the top that opens up. These Bluetooth and non-Bluetooth lock boxes I just showed you in the screen, those open up in the clamshell. The whole front key compartment opens up, and the older style lock boxes, generation 1 and 2, that are non-Bluetooth as well, the flap just kind of pops open to get the key out. So those are different generations that we're kind of referencing here. But in terms of the presentation, we're going to walk through the app, what you're looking at here, how to open these lock boxes. We're going to talk about getting the shackle and those sort of elements for using these going forward. So as we step through here, I see some questions that kind of pop up in the chat. So I'll try to make pauses at different sections, maybe to try to address some questions depending on the time and flow of things. We may hold some questions to the end, but by the end of this presentation, what my plan is to address all the questions you have there in the chat. So giving you a lay of the land for the screen, one thing that you see that's on my app here, because I'm actually have a live view of my app up here on the right-hand side of the screen. One thing you'll notice on the app here is that you won't see that touch and show button. That's for our new generation lock boxes, and for those customers that have a full inventory of that, that setting for the touch and show shows up there. So that blue bar for the touch and show should not show there, but what you will see, and one thing I want to point your attention to, is below where you have the picture, the image of the finger touch and the enter button on the lockbox itself, you'll see this access valid until. So this section right here, it's nothing new with our app. Our app always has credentialed for the security of our system in your area. We make sure that terminated agents aren't walking around using the app. So we've always had to re-credential people over time. And now we just are basically just showing you the access valid until whatever the date and time that that we have set for your area for when we check the credentials again. So what that means to you is when you see that, you know your app's gonna be good. So when you go into an area that has little to no cell coverage, if this says access valid till tomorrow, anytime today when you go out there to those areas with no cell coverage, you can open up the app and still operate it as normal. And one of the things we've done with our application is we built in and stored mobile access codes, which is how you get the non-Bluetooth lock boxes open with the app. So we've stored mobile access codes for all the lock boxes that are non-Bluetooth in your inventory, so that when you are in an area that has little to no cell coverage, you can still get into those lock boxes. And so if your access is valid till tomorrow, you can go to any area today that has little to no cell coverage and still use the app. So that's all that's really telling you. If for whatever reason that says access expired, it's likely that you opened up the app and it didn't connect to cellular data or Wi-Fi to check our server to make sure you're valid. Once you open the app, it actually refreshes those credentials. So that tells the story of that. Again, it's something that's always happened. It just happened in the background, and now we're showing you what's happening on our app so that you know your status. Along the bottom, you'll see the home button there. That's always to get back to this page. You will not see that chat icon on the bottom. That's a showing service feature. Again, I have all the features loaded onto my app. You may not. But what you will see is this envelope button here, and that's to check all of your accesses or notifications that come through our system. And then finally, over the far right-hand side, this is your profile page. So it shows your information here. If you have multiple accounts to other areas that may not be reciprocal to San Diego, you can actually add those accounts on here so that when you go to those areas, you can do just a little toggle and flip back and forth between your two accounts. So that's a new feature we've added here into the profile page. So you just do add account, log in with your other credentials, and then you'll have the two options to toggle between when you go to different areas. All right, so that's a lay of the land of the app. So when you're opening the key compartment, you're on this page here. For lockbox management, releasing shackles and everything else, the top left menu, these three bars at the top left-hand side of the screen in the app. That's where you'll go to get into things like my lockboxes. My lockboxes is where you're going to release shackle, assign lockboxes to listings, generate one-day codes. All that stuff is held under my lockboxes. The only other thing in this menu here that you're really looking at is access logs. So if you want to see the access logs across your lockboxes and what's happening on your lockboxes that you have on listings, you can go here to the access log page, and it loads up a log of all the accesses that happen across all your listings for the last month. So you can see it's sorted by date, and then you'll see the different property accesses there noted in the subject line. So when you want to click into one of those, you can get more details about around those accesses by like who was it that accessed the key compartment, the date, time, and what type of access that was. So all that's recorded here in the access log. So just to kind of kick things off with a presentation, the first thing I'm going to kind of just step you through is open the key compartment of a lockbox that is a Bluetooth lockbox. So there's two ways you're going to open these lockboxes. You'll open the Bluetooth a little bit differently than what you'll open the non-Bluetooth lockbox. So the Bluetooth lockbox, again, just to reiterate, looks like this. It's the off-white colored shell. that just opens like the clamshell. So when you walk up to a Bluetooth lockbox, again, you have the Bluetooth lockbox in hand, and then you come up here, you open your app, you get to this page, and you simply just press the enter button on the lockbox itself. At that point, you can see the app starts doing the rest of the work and talks to the lockbox, retrieves the info, and then if you have Face ID enabled on your phone, it'll just ask for your Face ID. And this lockbox, I grabbed the wrong one, so let me just grab this other one here for purposes of the demonstration. So again, I connect to the box, retrieve, it looks for my Face ID, and then opens the key compartment. So when you're talking about open a Bluetooth lockbox, again, all you have to do is press enter on the lockbox, the app does the rest of the work. Now, one thing to note is if you're in little to no cell coverage, if you have like 1 bar of cell coverage, that might spin a little bit trying to retrieve information and connect to the server and things like that. So don't get discouraged by that. It still should work. One thing you could do to push that along is just kind of like a pro tip. You can put your phone in airplane mode. That way your phone knows it has no communication, then go back and hit enter on the lockbox again. And then from that point, it just goes straight to open the key compartment. So otherwise it'll spin, and once that fails to connect to the server, then it'll open the key compartment. So that's kind of the process you'll notice there. When you're in a good cell coverage range, that'll just streamline and do just like I showed you there. Once you open the key compartment, you'll notice that it comes to this page here where it says success. And so you have 2 different options on this page. One is if you're using agent safety feature, which is a feature designed to help protect and keep you safe and when you're out showing property. So that keeps a timer running in the background. So every 2 minutes, our app will check with you, and you just check back in with the app saying I'm okay. It'll ask for your PIN number or Face ID or whatever to keep that timer going in the background. So that the idea of that is that you're walking a property, you don't know what's on the other side of the door. And so you have the agent safety timer running so that if something comes up and then there's things that are beyond your control and that are just an uncomfortable situation, you can go ahead and send an alert to your contacts. That way they know where you're at, it pinpoints your location, and sends them this notice to check in with you. So then you have somebody probably calling your phone in the next few minutes after you send that alert, so that at least you have somebody on the phone with you when you're walking through the property or what have you, and if things are a little uncomfortable. Obviously, it's no replacement for 911. If you need to get out and run, you call 911 and do that, right? But this is just a way to help you kind of feel a little bit better about the situation and actually report your last location to people if something does happen. There's also a key missing option here that you can toggle on. So if you open the key compartment and the key's not there in the key compartment, you can send that key missing to the listing agent that tells them the person who accessed the property before you, so they can check the individual and find out who has the key. Once you continue through that screen, if this lockbox is assigned to a listing, we come to this page of what is called the showing carousel. This one isn't assigned to a listing, so it came to this blank page. But otherwise, what shows up on the showing carousel, it gives you if they're showing instructions applied for the property. And I can circle back to this at the end once we kind of go through and set up one of these lock boxes in the next section to show you what that carousel looks like. But it shows you showing instructions that have been added into SentriLock itself. It'll show you the listing agent contact information. It'll also show you just kind of high level details about the property. And from that page allows you to link out to like RPR and other listing apps that kind of provide you more detailed look at the property information that you're going into. All right, so again, Bluetooth lockbox, you just walk up to the lockbox, you press enter on the lockbox itself, and the app does the rest of the work with the lockbox, talking to it and telling it to open up. So that's the Bluetooth way of opening the key compartment. So then we're going to go to the non-Bluetooth. So again, just to reiterate, it looks like the lockboxes look like this. They're a dark blue color, or the bigger silver gray colored lockboxes. Those are the non-Bluetooth lockboxes. So with the non-Bluetooth lockbox, when you open the app, for these, it's going to be a little bit different. What we do with these is we select this view nearby properties. And so what it'll do is it'll search with your location, and it'll pull a list of addresses that are within a half-mile radius of where you're at. So you see all these here. I'm at 7701 Service Center Drive, so it's pulling all the listings nearby me that are assigned to lockboxes. If nothing loads on this list, you can just go ahead and key in the serial number here at top. So when you do select the serial number up here, so if I go ahead and type in search and I punch in the serial number, let's see, I think this one will have it. If not, then we'll get a different one. From there, it retrieves the lockbox information, passes it to you. So that one wasn't in my inventory. Let me grab this other one here. Try this one real quick. So again, retrieves the lockbox information and it'll pull your access code here. So then you take this access code, grab your lockbox, enter to wake it up, press the code in, enter again, and the key compartment will open up. So then once you do key in that code, it actually, you have the same sort of toggles here. And then it does have instructions on how to use the code. If you need to know that, you can do that drop down there for that. But it's much like using a one-day code, right? That's why you do the non-Bluetooth lockboxes. So you get this code, you key it on the lockbox, and the lockbox key compartment opens right up. One thing to note is once you do get that code, immediately the listing agent, whether you use that code on the lockbox or not, the listing agent will get a notification that you open their key compartment. So that's how the notification system works. Our system assumes once you have that code, you can use it. So we're going to send the listing agent a notification that you open their key compartment. So just keep in mind, if you're ever going into this section, once you generate that code, it will, in fact, send the showing notification to the listing agent. So again, with the non-Bluetooth lockboxes, you hit this view nearby properties. You either select the lockbox from the list that you want to open, and or the other alternative is to key in the serial number. So if you wanted to select one from the list, again, you select it from the list if it's showing up in the list assigned to a property, and it generates the code from there. So as you can see, there's the two different ways to get into these lock boxes, selecting it from the list or searching the serial number with a non-Bluetooth lockbox. For a Bluetooth lockbox, again, we're on this page, pressing enter on the lockbox, it opens right up. All right, so that's the how-to for just opening the key compartment. So we're going to step over to the other side of this, and that's going to be managing lockboxes as you're putting on listings. So up here, again, at the top left-hand side of the app, where these three bars are at the top left, that's your menu button. When you select that, you go under My Lockboxes. So you can see the menu of options here. So you have Release Shackle, Assign Unassigned from Property, Get Access Code. One thing I'll note is when you release the shackle, that steps you through the sequence of assigning lockbox to the listing. So you can just release the shackle and then and really kind of not even need to do the assign unassigned from property portion of this if you wanted to, because the shackle release again walks you through everything. On this one, we're going to stick with the theme of the non-Bluetooth lockbox. So when I go release shackle, I get to this lockbox page. So actually, instead of sticking to the theme of the non-Bluetooth, I'm going to go ahead and release the shackle on a Bluetooth lockbox. So again, the Bluetooth lockbox is the off-white color like this. And whenever I go up to that lockbox, I press enter on the lockbox, and you'll see it connects to my lockbox, retrieves the information, asks for my Face ID because I have Face ID enabled. And then once that gives me the option to release, I go ahead and pull the shackle out, right? So I say hold the bottom of the lockbox. Once I press OK here, the shackle releases on the lockbox itself, and I pull it out. Now from here, it says the shackle has been released. So when you're doing Bluetooth lockbox, it sees if it's been or either style lockbox, it sees that it's either assigned or unassigned for a property. So if I do assigned to property, what it does here, it pulls up my listing inventory. Then I could select which listing I want to assign this to. So once it loads up my list here, so it's looking and trying to connect to the server and pull the information of the different listings I have in the system available to me. So I go through my set of properties that I have to assign this to. And then once I find the one I want to get it onto here, I'll go ahead and select that. Sorry for the pause there. So I'm gonna go ahead and assign it to one of my listings here at, find an open one. I'm just gonna grab a random one here. Assign it to the properties. So if a region option comes up, you're just gonna select San Diego as the region, hit next, and then confirm the assignment. So now at this point, once I confirm the assignment, this lockbox is assigned to a listing. So as I mentioned in the very beginning, there's the ability to add showing instructions into our system. So if you hit more settings on this page, it brings you up the options to add showing instructions for this listing. So you can see the basic instructions there at the top with the bubbles populated in. You check those off, those will show up. If there's additional information, you can type in the additional information. And then done. If there's also an alarm enabled on the home, you can select this yes for the alarm instructions, provide a code for the alarm so that they know how to disable the alarm. So you can do that as well. And then hit next. The other thing here is if you want to provide notifications to a homeowner, you can see that here. And add the homeowner's contact information. So those beginning and end of showing notifications, they go to the homeowner. If you add their cell phone number here, they'll get the text notification that the key compartment's been opened, and as well as whenever the showing ends. So once we get finished that section, we hit done. We've got this lockbox assigned to a listing, and we have the homeowner's copied on notifications. We got showing instructions set up. So again, with our app, once you release a shackle, it steps you through all the rest of the parts to get this lockbox set up on a listing. So that was the Bluetooth method of doing this. If we wanted to go the non-Bluetooth route, we do release shackle. And so for the non-Bluetooth, again, those are the blue, dark blue lock boxes are the big silver ones. With these, instead of pressing enter, because it's not going to connect to the app since it doesn't have Bluetooth built into it, we say get shackle release code. So what this does, it gives you a one-time shackle release code for the lockbox when you do this. So you'll see here, you can scroll through and find the lockbox specifically. If you have the lockbox serial number on hand, you can just type that in. I think I have rights to this one, but I may not. So it doesn't look like it comes up for me because I don't have rights to it. So I'm going to cancel that. And I'm just going to grab one of these shackle codes that are just sitting here. So I go ahead and select the get the shackle code for this lockbox here. Again, how to use the code, you'll select that. So you can see here on the options when you put that down, it says press function 9 function, enter the code shown above, press enter in the shackle release. So again, with the non-Bluetooth, you're going to use a code on the lockbox itself to release a shackle, but this lets you step through that process. Now, once you hit done here and assign that, it's going to walk you through the same steps as it did before, right? So if we want to assign it to a listing, we hit assign. We select the property we want to assign that lockbox to. And again, like everything else, it's going to step you through the showing instructions, the homeowner notifications, and all that stuff. So the same sort of procedure as before. We assign it to our listing, assign, confirm the assignment. Now our lockbox is assigned to a listing, and then we're all set from there. For that one, it didn't step us through the showing instructions. So if we wanted to apply those, we can go to property access settings right here in the app. And that allows us to do the showing instructions part of that. So, so again, Bluetooth, you just press enter on the lockbox, it connects, releases. Non-Bluetooth, you go in, release shackle, get shackle release code, and then key in that code on the lockbox to release the shackle. All the other same features as far as getting people from out of the area, contractors, those sort of individuals into your lockboxes, you can simply do get access code. And from here is where you can go and generate one-day codes for individuals to get into your listings. So if I went to any one of these, again, I'd select the listing I want to generate a code for and generate that code for the listing from there. So you put in the assigned to, which is the name of the individual, any sort of contact information for them. I recommend all that information because what did you put in the assigned to section is what's going to go on the access log of the lockboxes when you go look that up. And then you select the date that's valid. So you can select the day from today up to 14 days from now. And that code will work for that specific day. So it works. And once that code is used on the lockbox, after 60 minutes, it expires so that it can't be reused after that 60-minute period. So if it's a contractor that's going to be working on your property for 8 hours in the day, you may want to give them two codes, one to enter and one to exit. And that way they don't have the keys, walking around with the keys all day long. But it's important to put the information, all their information possible in the assigned to section here so that they can, so that you know who you actually assigned that code to and you have some accountability there. All right, so kind of as promised, I'm going to show you the open the key compartment with the Bluetooth one more time, just so we can step through the carousel. So again, when you walk up to the lockbox, and again, it's the Bluetooth lockboxes that we're referencing that look like the off-white color. When you walk up to that lockbox and press enter on the lockbox itself, it retrieves the info, asks for your Face ID or Touch ID or PIN number here. So mine uses Face ID, so I've got it's going to go ahead and read my face, open the key compartment. And at this point, again, I use my toggles to whether I want agent safety running or not, key missing if it's there or not. Once I continue through that screen, so this is where the showing instructions that we just added come into play. So that's the one we just set up just a moment ago. So you can see that up here at the top section where it says none provided, that's going to be any instructions you put into the MLS will be populated there. In addition, the standard instructions are the check boxes that we checked off, and the additional information is what we typed, did a custom text type of. And then if there's an alarm code, that'll be presented down here at the bottom. So once you swipe left on the screen, since your listings will be coming to the import, we import photos and this information here. This one wasn't an imported listing that I selected and assigned this to, but ultimately it's going to display the address, a picture of the home here, bed, bath, count, square footage, and the status of the listing. So that's what you'll see on this next page with the listing information. If there's more deeper, you want a deeper dive into into any sort of information about this listing, you can hit open listing details here. If you hit this button, this links you out to RPR if you've got that app downloaded. And from there, you can see the listing property details in the RPR app and gather more information from there. So the last page is the listing contact information. So this shows you who the individual's property that you're entering, their contact information, so that you know how to get a hold of them. And then finally, one thing up here I want to note, you'll see a stopwatch button up here at the top, up under the battery icon for my phone. This stopwatch button is a way to manually end the showing timer. So when you select that and hit end showing, that sends the listing agent a notice that you've left the property and you've done and you're complete and you're all wrapped up with the showing. So that sends that to them and the homeowners if they're copying their homeowners on the notifications. so that they know you've left for the day. All right, so I'm going to take a moment here, check through some of the Q&A, make sure we've got your questions addressed if it's something I didn't touch on in the presentation. So I have a question here. It says, on the new boxes, are you saying that the cards will no longer be usable on these new lock boxes? So with the card deprecation, what we've done is we've prevented the ability to show properties with the card. If you own lock boxes, your card as the lockbox owner will still work on the lock boxes when we do deprecate on the 31st. So at that point, what will happen is you can no longer use your card to show the properties. You can still use the card to manage your own lock boxes if you needed to. Again, through the steps we've shown you today, you shouldn't need to do anything with the card. But if you did, something came up and you need to kind of go back to it, do different things like set the clock on the older style lock boxes. Of the Bluetooth lock boxes, the clock is automatically set as the lock boxes are open with the app. But with the older non-Bluetooth lock boxes, you can do your card for those sort of troubleshooting functions if you ever needed to, but it's not necessary. Somebody had a question here about not being able to see the screen. I have my app up here on the right-hand side. Hopefully there haven't been issues along throughout the presentation. If there's any issues with that, please let me know. Well, hopefully there's no problems there. There's a question here about being valid for 3 days. Can Sentry make it valid at least for a week? As far as the settings go, in terms of the card, we want to limit the amount of time that those are staying valid, just due to the transition and that sort of thing. So the cards are going to stay what they are, but really you're only going to renew the card if you're a lockbox owner and working on your own lock boxes. So we want that time to be limited for when those are valid. So there's a question here if you do not have Face ID. So Face ID is just a feature of your phone. If you have it enabled on your phone, you can enable it for our application. There was Touch ID as well for some of the older phones that don't have the Face ID. There is a Touch ID option. And if you don't have either one of those options enabled, if you don't use Face ID or Touch ID, you have the 4 to 6-digit PIN number that you've created that you use for your card that'll still work for the app as well. So those are your different credentialing options on our system. So the question here is, what percentage of new lock boxes are being used now, and when will the card boxes become obsolete? So our intent is never really to make any products obsolete on SentriLock. We are having to move away from the card because of the technology. So I mentioned this at the very beginning of the presentation. Our vendors who make the cards are going to make that technology obsolete. And so we had to kind of transition things over and move to the app. Before we did that, we did a lot of things with the app to make the non-Bluetooth lock boxes work in areas where there's little to no cell coverage. So we've done that. We're also kind of displaying your status here on the screen, which is the access valid until. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, that is, we renew agents' credentials on a daily basis. And that's simply done by you open the app. And once you see this page, your access will get renewed if the app hit the server. So we give you that status so that you know when you go to those areas that have little to no cell coverage, you're going to be good if you go to those areas in that time frame. So we're not making the lock boxes obsolete. We are just at this point preventing the ability to show. You can still manage those lock boxes with your card for now, and that technology will stay around for the foreseeable future. If any changes to that, we will communicate to your association so they communicate that to you. We built our app to where these lock boxes and any generation of our lock boxes will work with the app. All right, so the cost for the new lock boxes. So we do sell the lock boxes to the local associations and board offices, and different price points, and so they sell those to you. I'm not sure what the local market is for the lock boxes there, but it should be, based on what I know, they sell the lock boxes at cost of what they give you. So they take what we sell to them and kind of basically provide that at cost to you. So, but I don't know what the prices are set on that. So that's something, a question you can kind of ask the association on, what the price to upgrade to new lock boxes would be. There's something to hear about Android, iPhone, either. I'm not really sure what that means. So, all right, so that's as far as what I'm seeing here, the questions, we should be up to date on that. So I'll be here for a little bit longer, but ultimately, hopefully this presentation has been helpful for you to learn a little bit more about our application and how to use it on these lock boxes. Again, the intent is not to make the old style lock boxes obsolete, but we've done some things in the app to where you can still operate them, whether even the non-Bluetooth lock boxes, whether you're in cell coverage or not in cell coverage. So we've done those things here before we actually roll out the inability to show key compartments with the card. So I'll be here for a moment. If I see any questions pop up into the chat, I'll be happy to answer those as we go. But I think we've got everything covered. If I've missed anything, please raise your hand or let me know. And I'll be happy to address any sort of outstanding questions here. But again, wanted to thank everyone for their time and participation today. Hopefully you found value in this session. And please, if you need any assistance going forward, and I guess one more thing that I'll show here before I do wrap up is we have on our website page, we have some great resources. So when you go to our website here, if you go under the training support section of our website, we have all sorts of tools. There's an app school that'll kind of give you a self-guided step through for using the SentriKey application. We have several how-to videos on there as well. So these are some different resources that you can utilize for training. For those who don't know, if you like to do presentations, we have a whole slew of product briefs here that will give you some sort of that literature that you can use in your listing presentations with the homeowners about the lock boxes you use and that sort of thing. If you want to include that information there, that's under our resources section of the website. And again, under training and support, you can go into the training section, find all sorts of information here. And anything that you can't find here, certainly reach out to our support staff. They do a great job at helping members along and helping them transition through this transition process. So feel free to reach out to our support team. They can always help you out with any sort of additional transitional issues or needs there. Somebody mentioned that they can't find the app. So the application, if you search for SentriKey, SentriKey, you should see a logo that comes up that looks like a lockbox almost with an S going through it. It's a blue logo like that. You can go to the App Store on Google Play if you use an Android phone or just your iPhone App Store. Search for SentriKey as the keyword, and it should kind of pop up and find that app. If you still have problems, our support team can certainly help you walk through that. There's some confusion here around mentioning Bluetooth and non-Bluetooth. Bluetooth are not blue, the card boxes. So if I bring up my screen here real quick, and let me kind of pop back over into that section here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for this so I can bring up my screen so it's a little bit bigger. So our non-Bluetooth lock boxes look like this. They're dark blue colored. And those are the ones that are non-Bluetooth. There's couple versions you might run into out in the market that are non-Bluetooth, and those would be, there'd be a big silver lockbox. But the difference in this one and the Bluetooth is the Bluetooth has an off-white color. So these two look exactly the same. This one's Bluetooth, that's off-white. This one's non-Bluetooth. One of the key differences here is when you press enter on the lockbox or any key on it, you'll notice this blue light starts blinking and flashing. That's the Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth even has that Bluetooth logo right there. You can see on the lockbox itself, so that'll indicate that you've got a Bluetooth lockbox in front of you as well. So those are some of the key differentiators you can look for Bluetooth versus non-Bluetooth. And again, when you're using a Bluetooth lockbox, you open the app, press enter on the lockbox itself, and the app will do the rest of the work to open it up. So all the lock boxes in your inventory, they all will use the card. If you are the lockbox owner, again, you can still use your card on the lock boxes. If you're just going to show property and it's not your lockbox, basically what's going to happen is you stick your card in the lockbox, it'll immediately flash card error because the cards are meant to no longer work with those any lockbox that regardless of version. If you're trying to go show property of a lockbox that's not your own, the card will no longer work on it. For your own lockboxes, ones that you own specifically, you can still utilize the card, but I'd stay away from that. Just use the app. It's all much easier. That way you don't have to worry about having to go back and do renew and then kind of have this transition of what do I do with my card. So we encourage you to just move over to the app exclusively, but if there's troubleshooting that needs to be done, clocks that need to be set there, we have to keep some of those core functionalities with the card so that you can accomplish some of those things. That way we're not making those lock boxes totally obsolete or anything like that. So again, just to reiterate, if you're going to show property, if it's somebody else's lockbox, your card will not work on it. If it's your own lockbox, a lockbox that you own, your card should still be able to work on those. So hopefully that clarifies there. All right, so that is all the questions I see here. So again, I'll still continue to monitor these questions as they come up. Again, thank you everybody for your time, participation, and interaction here today. I certainly appreciate that, and hopefully you found some value in this session today. So there's a question in here. Can another person, not an agent, use the app on your behalf on their phone? So the answer to that is no. I think there's some association rules and MLS rules against doing the sharing credentials. SentriLock's system also has measures put into place to help detect those situations. But at the end of the day, only people who are licensed realtors that have that pay dues with the association MLS should be set up and using the app. Anyone else should not be. If you need to get other people that are not in the area or not an agent, contractor, things like that, what you should be doing is using one-day codes and those sort of features to get people in those lock boxes.
All right, well, thank you very much, Andrew. I ended up staying for the entire time, extremely informative. And again, if anybody has any questions regarding the SentriLock, please stop by our office here in Kearney Mesa. Our membership services will definitely walk you through the entire process. We have lock boxes in the back. And then if you have any questions, just feel free to give us a call. Membership is always there to help you, or even just come by and stop by if you really want to get a hands-on tutorial. So we are definitely here to help through our association. All right, Andrew, well, thank you very much for your time. Definitely very informative, and we will be replaying this video quite often. We're always here to help. All right, well, thank you so much.